Hello my friends, welcome back to my channel. This is Jenny, you're watching Polly's Paper Studio, and this is my first Christmas card for November. And so I am going to create with the Welcome Winter collection from Cartabella, and this is a fun fold book fold card. And I'm always surprised to find a new style of card that I want to make that I haven't made before. This was a first for me and I really loved it. If you love it too, stick with me and we'll make it together. So for today's project, we're going to be using this Welcome Winter collection. This is from Cartabella, and I did share this in my previous haul video along with all the other supplies that I picked up for my Christmas card making. And initially when this came in, I thought, oh no, what have I done? I already have 2 blue Christmas collections in my stash. What do I need another one for? And I really think I got pulled in by that plaid. It always gets me every time, but I have to say, once I got into it today, I was so happy that I have this because it is just the most beautiful quality paper. The colors are rich and the images are so festive. And so if you like to craft with non-traditional colors, although I do think that blue is kind of traditional now for Christmas holidays, then this is for you, and I have really enjoyed using it. So this is the 12 by 12 collection kit. It did come with the sticker sheet, and I'm actually using one of those today, which will be a surprise to everyone because I do not utilize my sticker sheets nearly enough, but for today I am. And so let's get into the card. This base is the thing that makes this card so much fun because it is so simple. You don't have to join any layers together. You don't have to do any fancy measuring or cutting. It's all just a basic 12-inch by 6-inch 110-pound cardstock sheet. I came in and scored it at 6 and then also at 7 1/4, and that's what's going to give me my book fold. So let me just flip this over and show you. I did put my adhesive here on this small section that will be adhered to the base, and why not add a second layer of adhesive while I'm at it, just to be on the safe side. And I'll just go ahead and press this over and give that a good contact so that it is well adhered. And now you can see the book fold coming to life. So what I want to do is address each of these sections separately. This side, it makes sense to put a different pattern so it's a very noticeable difference. And I have already prepared this very non-contrasting wood grain. This was part of the collection, and I did cut the same blue cardstock throughout. So it all has a beautiful coordinated look. This piece is going to be 5 7/8 by 1 1/8 for the cardstock, and the pattern paper is 5 3/4 by 1 inch. So how did I come to have these holes punched exactly where I wanted them? I cut a separate piece of this scrap paper to be 1 inch wide, and then I folded in half. I measured in 1.5 inches, and I put a mark there. When I opened it, I punched the hole with my Crop-A-Dile, and then I set it on to the end here and just use that as a template for my Crop-A-Dile. And then I flipped it over and did the same thing for this side. So now I know that they are measured in exactly the same distance from the outside, and I can just add this now to my spine, as it were. I'm going to put the double-sided adhesive tape on it and then just set that in place here on the side. And now I can use the holes that I've punched as a template to cut the holes for the book itself. So I'll bring back in my Crop-A-Dile, and I'm using the larger hole size. I'll just slide that in there till that portion is into the first hole and go ahead and punch that, and then do the same for this side as well. I'm going to pick out a couple of eyelets here, and I've already added one to my tag, so I'll just pull the ones that are the same color so it all coordinates really nicely. And that's sort of a bronzy copper color. I think it goes really well with this collection. And so I'll just go ahead and slide that eyelet in, and then press that with my Crop-A-Dile so that it will compress around the book. And you see now I have that nicely squished into place so it will be well secure. I'll do the same for this side. And now before I get too much further and have any other additional bulky items added, I'm going to go ahead and finish the inside. I have my pattern paper cut and matted with the same blue cardstock. So the matting for this is 5 7/8 by 4 5/8. The cardstock is 5 3/4 by 4 1/2. And so I'm just going to go ahead and center that. And then before I present this, I would add a small section for the sentiment to be added. And now you can see that the inside looks very well coordinated. And I'll just go ahead and do the same for the cover. I use the same pattern paper and all the measurements are the same. I'm just going to get the nice white border from my card base all the way around. And now what I want to do is add some trim to this left-hand portion. And so I've got this beautiful wrinkle ribbon. This is from Really Reasonable Ribbon. I'm just going to thread it through the eyelet by rolling it as small as I can and then threading that through. Don't worry about fraying the edges because we're going to tie this and cut the ends again. So do the same thing and bring it back through the other side. I think it would be nice if I took a minute to flatten this out so that it would be not lumpy on the back as much as possible. Now what I'm going to do is just tie this in a regular old knot, and then I will add my bow to the top of it rather than trying to tie a bow around and have all of my tails and everything end up perfectly even. So I'll just go ahead and give that a good snug pull. Don't worry about going through because you've got that eyelet to prevent the paper from tearing. So now I've got it nice and tight, and I'll just put that right in the center and clip off the excess pretty close to the knot. And I've already prepared a small double loop bow, and I'm just going to adhere that right on top. So it looks like we got our bow tied perfectly just right on the top of the book. So I'll add this with my hot glue. I'm just pressing that right over top of the knot that we have there. And that is perfectly centered now. And that looks so sweet on the side of the card. Okay, let's begin to add the dimensional elements. And for this, our final piece is going to be popped up on a foam spacer. And so this piece of cardstock is 5 1/4 by 3 3/4. And the pattern paper is 5 3/8 by 3 5/8. And I'll just go ahead and center this right on the larger portion of the book fold. I love how that dimension really brings up all of these layers. So this sticker sheet also had a couple of very sweet little sentiments. I'm going to go ahead and add this to the top right corner. I'm going to bring it in just enough so that some of that white pattern paper shows in the background so that it looks like an obvious extra added layer so that it doesn't just run over the side. And next I have a tag. This was cut from one of the journal cards, and so this just has a pretty stitched border. I did add that eyelet as I mentioned before, and I put a little twine through that and secured it on the back. There are also quite a lot of foam spacers on here so we can just keep building up this dimension. And before I add this, I want to include a portion of a chipboard snowflake, and so I just took a large one and cut off a couple of different sections so that I could use them frugally. And I want to kind of place this here and get an idea of where my string needs to land so that I'm not covering up part of that sentiment. And I also don't want to go over the portion of this where it folds, because that will certainly have a crease in it or break off, and we don't want that. So here's where I want my tag to fall, and this is where I want my snowflake to be. There isn't a lot of room for adhesive on this, so I'm just going to add a little hot glue and disguise that underneath the tag. And here is that next layer. I think this is turning out so sweet. Remember, we want to preserve that sentiment on the top, so I am very aware of where all of this string is landing. I can come back in later and give that a little haircut if I decide it's too long, but I kind of like it how it is. Okay, so here is my flower arrangement. And I did use my cinch and go poinsettia. Instead of just regular paper, I typically make all my flowers from my offcuts. I chose to bring in this beautiful silvery blue cardstock, and I cut that. It has the glittery shimmer to it. I made the flower just as I would any regular flower. It's finished off on the inside with my stamens I get from Really Reasonable Ribbon. And then I did arrange the smaller flowers. These are more filler flowers on the sides. So I'm kind of building that curve that I want at the bottom of my card. And then I began to add all of my beautiful foliage layers. I'm mixing up the new foliage that I picked up and I showed in my last haul. Absolutely beautiful. No regrets or second thoughts on that. I have really enjoyed using it. There's a lot of unique and larger foliage bits, so I can increase the size of my arrangements and really bring in some additional elements like these pine cones. And these were cut from my Gina Marie pine cone dies and just layered, so it's craft card stuck over brown, and that creates a beautiful depth and dimension. And then here is the small portion of that snowflake that I cut off, and I just kind of adhered it to the back of my flower. That really fills in that curve. And then I finished off this arrangement with beautiful blue plaid ribbon, and this also came from Really Reasonable Ribbon, and I have really enjoyed using that for my blue themed Christmas cards. So this is going to go in the corner, and I am covering up that sentiment because I already have one here and I need that extra space for my arrangement to fill in this corner. This is pretty heavy, so I am going to add this with the hot glue, make sure it's pressed into place very well. There are a couple of charms here, and I just went with the tree theme for that. I tied them together, and I'll add them to this corner with a little hot glue. I'll remove the excess string and then cover those cut ends with a vintage button. I'm adding that with hot glue again. Here's some stickles that I want to add to the accents on this tree, just to bring a little bit of extra detail and sparkle. I'm not going all over and crazy. I'm just adding it to where that snow is in the image. And then of course I'm going to bring in a couple of these sequins. So I'll put two here on this side of the tag and one here on the base layer. I'm just going to add these with my Tombow. And that is all for my Let It Snow book fold greeting card. And so while I had my collection out, I just went ahead and created another card here. This is a Slimline format. You know I really love those. I added a couple of my scalloped oval dies to bring some interest and dimension, and here are more of those beautiful new foliage dies that I'm just having so much fun with. I finished this card off with that first blue ribbon because I wanted to include two bows and I didn't want it to be too bulky. And then I switched to the smaller size of my flower die, and so I have two arrangements rather than one large one. And here's that sticker again from the sticker sheet, and so I'm hoping to utilize those more in the future because I think it's a perfect accent for this size of card. I finished this one off with a reindeer charm, some larger of the Chipboard Snowflake snowflakes and some more of the sequins. So I'll have a lot more paper and a lot more projects coming with that Welcome Winter collection from Cartabella. But for now, I think this will do for today. So that's all for my tutorial with the Welcome Winter collection. I hope that you enjoyed it. Make sure you come back Friday for more crafty inspiration. Remember to check the description for links to all of our socials. If you're not already, I would love for you to subscribe, and don't forget to give me a big thumbs up and leave me a comment for this video. As always, I'm wishing you a happy and productive day, and I thank you so much for watching. Bye.